in the back, your question, and we'll try to get it on the agenda. Candidates may not use briefing books, cell phones, nor laptops during the forum. Notes are permitted. All campaign literature will be displayed outside the council chambers. Tonight we have two candidates running for mayor, Hollis Winston and Winfred Russell. There are also four candidates running for city council: Tashita Waco, Maria Trang, Christian Erickson, and Ingrid Alexander. We will be putting both of these sets of candidates together into one forum. So each candidate will have an opportunity questions, and will be alerted by these times. We will end the forum with closing statements of one. Before we begin, please note that all the views expressed tonight are those of the candidates, not the league. Also, a reminder that there will be no individual videotaping or photography during the forum. Audience, please hold your applause to the very end of the forum. So please silence your phones and let's get started. We'll be starting with opening statements in reverse alphabetical order. So we will start with Tashita, who is not here. Skipping, I'm sorry?
I'm here.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you come in. I looked, this is a funny angle, you'll have to excuse me, I may be calling people by the wrong names. I've done it already, I guess. Okay, you're on. Oh, you should be. Can you help me with the?
Okay. Hello?
Yes.
Good evening. Thank you for the League of Women for holding this forum tonight. I want to extend my greetings to the city of Brooklyn Park. And my name is Tashita Waco. I am a 20-year resident of the city of Brooklyn Park. I live in the northern part of the Central. And in terms of my background, I am a family of 5, and I have volunteered in so many activities, and I briefly mentioned for you. In terms of my education, I have Master of Business Administration and Master of Accountancy, and I worked as Chief Financial Officer for one of the largest nonprofits in the Twin Cities for 20 years as Chief Financial Officer. Currently, I am a Vice Chair of Budget Advisory Commission, the commission that I served the city in for the last 5 years. I am also a volunteer and a business owner. Currently, I volunteer as a treasurer for the Regents Hospital Foundation. And I have volunteered in so many other nonprofits. Just to mention a few, I was on the Community First Public Safety Commission for the City of Brooklyn, for the City of St. Paul, studying about public safety and community engagement. And my platform, why I run for this office is, one, I would like to bring my experience and the skills that's accumulated into the City Hall to provide a leadership that's needed and that's missing in the city. And I stand for public safety, economic activity, quality living, housing stability, property, residential property tax reduction, diversity and equity and inclusion in the city. Thank you so much and look forward.
Thank you. Hollis Winston?
So I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. Also the audience, those watching, those who showed up for taking the time to watch this, especially when the weather is so nice in the fall. A little bit about myself. I've lived in Brooklyn Park around 15 years. I have a wonderful family. So I've been with my wife 19 years. I have a 18-year-old daughter who's going to New York University on scholarship, a son who's a senior at Champlain Park, and then I have a 6-year-old daughter who's just full of energy. So I'm very proud of what my family has done, and I want to thank my family for all of the support that they have provided me. As far as my occupation, received my master's in business from Carlson School of Management. I worked for a number of Fortune 500 U.S. Bank, Express Scripts, Boston Scientific, Medtronic, amongst others. And then I transitioned to consulting, working with small businesses, but also advocating on behalf of small businesses is my occupation for now. Actually helped stand up a $60 million fund for small businesses. Why I'm running is it's fairly simple. I think a lot of us who moved to Brooklyn Park were moving for something better. Long story short, my grandparents moved to Chicago from Jim Crow South. There were opportunities that allowed them to make good. They also offered businesses, and they turned it over to my parents. My parents did what they could with it, still doing that, and then turned many of those opportunities over to me. And I think when we look at a city like Brooklyn Park that's struggling with some of the basic blocking and tackling, whether it's people feeling safe in their homes, public safety, whether it's just given our water quality, right? I think many of those opportunities that we took for granted growing up are not necessarily in place. And so I'm running to make sure that we can ensure that future generations have those opportunities.
Thank you. Maria Tran?
Hi, I am Maria Tran, a candidate of a van candidate of the Brooklyn Park City Council West District. I came from the Vietnam War. I have a very strong military family background. I have a child abuse history from veteran war, veteran PTSD. I continue to experience sexism, racism, domestic abuse, not just domestically, but internationally in Japan and in America. And so that makes me now, motivated writers, a human rights activist. And why I'm running? Yeah, that's why. My passion to serve people with my experience, my life experience. I think my fight for others will be ongoing. I will be a lifetime or combatant fears and beyond my grave, even into my afterlife. That's my passion to fight for others, and my priorities. If I being elected is about social justice or human rights and public safety, because when the racism or things like that's going on, people never feel safe, And when we don't feel safe, we cannot have a good life or to become productive citizen. So I hope you guys will give me a chance to be a servant. Thank you.
Thank you. Winfred Russell?
Thank you. Good evening to you all, and it's great being here, and thanks to everyone for taking time off to be here, and to the League of Women Voters for putting this forum together. My name is Winfred Russell. I'm a current city council member. I've been on the council now for 4 years. I came to this country as a refugee student. I worked my way out, attending the university in Michigan, North Carolina, and worked at the University of Minnesota for over 6 years, teaching and then doing public health research. My extended work in this community goes all the way back to about 15 years or so. I'm a 20-year resident here in Brooklyn Park. I worked here working in the community as an organizer, as an activist, as an advocate, working to produce results in this community. I served on the Human Rights Commission. I also served on the Planning Commission, and then ran for a seat on the City Council. So 4 years ago, you entrusted me with a seat on the City Council representing the West District. And throughout that time, I've worked for you. I've worked for the residents, trying to improve the lives of people here. And what I would do as your next mayor would be to work with law enforcement and community organizations and all of the stakeholders here, including our residents, to reduce crime, to provide strategy that would increase the number of programs that we have for the youth in this community, to ensure that our youth are engaged, to improve our parks and trails and walkways here in the city, and also to ensure that affordable housing and housing options are provided for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Christian Erickson?
Good evening. Thanks everyone for being here. Thanks to the League of Women Voters for hosting. I'm Christian Erickson. I am seeking the East District seat on the City Council. I'm a lifelong Brooklyn Park resident. My parents still live here. I'm raising my own children here, and I'm asking for your vote in November. Over the past 6 years of service on the Human Rights Commission and numerous other task forces and committees, I've seen so much of what's good in Brooklyn Park and been introduced to and in so many opportunities to make it better. When talking to neighbors, while door knocking and out in the community, public safety has really risen to the front as the top question that everyone's concerned about. That absolutely involves supporting our public safety agencies with the resources they need to operate. It also includes things like protecting human rights and safe, clean housing. It includes investment in things like youth intervention, park and rec programs, job programs, and all of that builds the kind of strength in our community that will make everyone safer in the future. I want to be a council member and serve on a city council and in a city government that listens well to every one of our residents. I want our city council and our city government to honor the dignity and humanity of every one of our neighbors. And I think that's the only way that Brooklyn Park can move forward into a better future for everyone. And I think that's more important than any one policy or ordinance that the city could carry out. I'm not bashful about the things I believe in, but I want to commit to every Brooklyn Park resident that I will listen to you, that I will learn from you, and that we can move Brooklyn Park forward together. Thank you.
Thank you. Ingrid Alexander?
First of all, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting together this, or for inviting us to this forum. And I also want to thank the residents of Brooklyn Park for taking the time to be here, for making sure that you're making informed decisions when selecting your elected officials. My name is Indra Alexander. I am the DFL endorsed candidate for the Brooklyn Park City Council for the East District. I ask for your vote because I look to bring proactive leadership to Brooklyn Park that will unite and uplift our city. I bring a broad range of knowledge and experience to help our city live up to its potential. As your next city council member, I look to provide leadership and to provide assistance to access to resources to support our city manager, our staff, and our police officers. I've been a resident of Brooklyn Park for 27 years with my husband, Rico Alexander, where we have raised our 2 adult children. I'm a small business owner, where I'm an independent insurance broker who has built my practice working with and advising other business owners and individuals to empower them to build strong financial foundations that meet their needs. I have served on the board of directors for nonprofit organizations. I've volunteered for youth and community organizations and continue to volunteer in our community. So as an advocate of Brooklyn Park residents, I would like to prioritize public safety or improving our public safety by decreasing violent crime and improving the safety of our highways and streets. Would like to advocate for politics to rebuild and strengthen our working and middle class. Would like to promote policies that embrace and engage our cultural and generational diversity in our community. I want to make sure that we approve policies that protect the rights of our residents, and prioritize the protection of our environment.
Thank you. Now we'll go into the question part of our program, and we will be doing this randomly, and I hope that I randomly don't miss anybody. So please speak up if I sort of all of a sudden, it should have been your turn, but you didn't get notified. So here we go. Indra, you have the first question. How would you incorporate Brooklyn Park Age-Friendly City Initiative into your decisions regarding housing developments, transportation, and transportation concerns?
As I had mentioned, one of my priorities is really embracing the generational diversity that we have within our city. It's really important that we take into consideration that we have seniors in our communities, that we have resources to help them stay in their homes as long as possible and to be able to have transportation throughout the city, as well as prioritizing access to transportation for our youth. It is, from what I understand, it's very difficult for our youth to be able to get to different jobs and to be able to participate in school, as far as like attending North Hennepin Community College. So I think we need to prioritize sure that we have adequate transportation that goes east to west, and taking all of those things into consideration, not just the youth, but also taking into consideration our seniors.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Trustee, I'm sorry. Tashita.
Thank you. Thank you. This is a very good question. Brooklyn Park Age-Friendly Initiative is about housing, about not only housing, but clean, livable housing. And what we see in the city of Brooklyn Park is we are missing accountability in that regard. So we need a clean, livable, accessible housing in the city of Brooklyn Park. Transportation, we need, that's the east-west, but we need to provide amenities for transportation to be. There should be activity. There should be a sit-down restaurant. There should be economic activity for, Brooklyn Park to continue to be age-friendly. And our elders, when they get out, they need to get to amenities, to places of worship, places of, hospitalities, and that should be there. And I also add that we need the Blue Line to be for transportation to be, so that they can travel anywhere. And that's what our tech need.
Thank you. Hollis Winston?
So I would echo a lot of what was said. I think when you talk about livability, though, I do know that one of my biggest concerns is the apartments. And when we talk about age friendly, there are apartments out there that are not friendly to our elders in our communities. So as a city, we need to find ways, whether it's grants or other ways, to help them bring that up to standard. We also need to hold folks accountable for that. I think future development, whether it's apartments or homes, needs to take into account how is this going to serve our elder communities. And then I do think when we talk about the Blue Line extension, which is coming, we need to make sure that it is safe. So we need to be working with our own public safety experts as well as at the state level to make sure it's safe, and then make sure we have east to west transportation so folks can get there, so they can also get back and forth for the various activities.
Thank you. Maria Fran?
It's about public transportation. Yes, the resident need, the roads construction to transport for community, but because of the economy, downturn, we should not make too much, invest into that. Find a way like economy, and about resident apartment, we have a lot of problem about housing. We should invest onto the land, the vacant land, and we should look into on the apartment that right now on the money where it's gone, and the people who live in the apartment with a very unsafe environment.
Thank you. See, Winston Russell?
No, it's Winfred Russell.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so I think what clearly set me apart from my opening here is that I'm not coming into the mayoral position telling you what I will do. I'm coming into the mayoral office telling you what I am currently doing and what I will continue to do. And the age-friendly policy, Brooklyn Park is already an age-friendly city. We won several age-friendly awards. We work with Hennepin County to ensure that our city is age-friendly. And by that, we'll continue in what the work that I'm currently doing in that regard, ensuring that we have universal design so our elderly and senior can move around the city, can have easy mobility around the city. We ensure that our buildings are accessible to all. Our park systems and all of that are accessible to everyone, to every resident in the city, regardless of their age. Thank you.
Thank you. And Christian Erickson?
I would agree with Winfred Russell that the city has done a lot of work and has received some recognition for its age-friendly policies. And I've gotten to learn about several of those things over the last few years. At the same time, I do notice a lot of room for improvement in some of those areas. Something I've heard from several seniors is that as they age and are no longer feeling as safe driving, that it's hard for them to get from where they live, especially from senior communities, to things like grocery shopping and doctor's appointments. And so how do we work with Metro Transit or on our own to provide some kind of circulator to help the elderly and others who need transit to get around our city in the immediate proximity? I've also heard from folks that some immigrant communities, the seniors might not feel as interested or engaged in some of our senior programs as others. So I think exploring some options for seniors from immigrant communities who might be interested just in different things. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to another question. Brooklyn Park has a new police chief. How would you describe the current relationship between the police department and the community? And the first person on this one is Christian again.
I think I am very optimistic about our police department. I've been able to be with the new chief at a couple of events recently, at Huntington Place, at a block party. And I would say that I've already felt some tangible improvement in how the community looks at our police department and how our police officers feel about themselves. And I think that some of the creative ideas that are already being tried under this new leadership are really optimistic around engaging long-term residents of apartments to help identify problem units or acute needs. And then reinvesting in community engagement that had to be put on pause due to COVID. I think there's a lot of potential there, and I am really excited to see where it goes in the coming years.
Thank you. Ingrid Alexander?
I'm optimistic as well with the relationship with the City of Brooklyn Park and the police department. Prior to actually being selected as the new chief, I had the pleasure of participating in the Brooklyn Park Chamber of Commerce meeting, and he provided a presentation that really outlined the things that they're currently doing and how they were currently addressing many of the issues that that are concern of residents in regard to public safety. And I felt very comfortable with his answer and his openness to look at different approaches, and just his ability to connect and to reach out to us as members of the chamber. So I feel very optimistic, and I feel that the Brooklyn Park Police Department has created a good relationship with City Council and has made it a place where other police officers want to be.
Thank you. Tashita?
Thank you. Public safety is a concern of all of us, and we all need to be safe. And for that, we need to support a law enforcement and a police that's accountable and transparent. And how do we do that is by ensuring a trusted relationship with the community, by hiring diverse workforce who have the willingness and also an attitude to work with the diverse communities, and by embracing diversity into the culture of the policing and also engaging the community. You know, the community should be engaged, and there is a deficit of trust that we see out there in the community that we need to collectively address. And if we enhance that, we will ensure public safety will be better in the city of Brooklyn Park.
Thank you. Hollis?
So I've actually met with our new police chief, and then I've been impressed with some of the work he's been doing in Huntington Place. I think one of the crown jewels over there is an organization called The Village, and he's been amenable to working with them to have the police come interact with the community once a week. So the community is getting familiar with them, and they're starting to figure out some of the problem areas. I think the question is not just about Bruley, even though I at this point have faith. I think the other question is, you know, we haven't done a great job in terms of youth involvement below 85th. A ton of folks at the doors kind of see that. So how do we invest in that more so that children are moving in the right direction and they have those opportunities? But how do we also come up with models where the police are engaged, but in a place like Huntington Place, right, folks are also, residents are much more engaged to make it safer. They know how to engage with the police, to engage in these programs, so over time we can push down crime, because the reality is wherever it is, you know, when we all feel safer, we all feel safer.
Thank you. Maria Tran?
I totally agree with Teshito. In addition, I hope that, and I think that we still have to put more effort into the law enforcement and community relationship. Yes, that's what I think. I agree with Teshito.
Thank you. Okay. Winfred Russell.
Okay, thanks, you got it good this time. I interviewed the current police chief, Mark Dooley. So I have a very excellent relationship with the police department and with our law enforcement as a whole. I received the endorsement of the fire, a professional Brooklyn Park professional fire department. It's because of my excellent working relationship with them over the years. I think Dooley will be a great police chief. He's already shown us he's going to be a great police chief, and that's why I voted to hire him as our permanent police chief. His community policing is par excellence. The work he's doing, passing out flyers at Huntington Place and other apartment complexes around the city, they are already showing results. I know we have a big perception of crime in the city, but the reality is our numbers are dipping. And it is the early work that Dooley and his team are doing that is causing this slight dip in crime in Brooklyn Park, and I'm sure it will continue.
Thank you. Okay, now we're ready for the next question, and Winfred starts with this one. What has Brooklyn Park done well for its youth?
Thank you. What Brooklyn Park has done well and it will continue to do under my leadership is provide more programs and more work with community-based organizations in the city to provide more programs for our young people. So the Zanewood Teen Center, the Zanewood Recreation Center, I was part of the group working with the city when it was an idea. Now it is a reality that we have a Zanewood Recreation Center there, providing program, engagement, intervention there for our young people. So what I will do and what I will continue to do is what I have been doing all along as an advocate in this community and as a current city council member representing the West District, and as your mayor will continue to work with organizations to provide the resources that we need to increase the programming to keep our folks engaged, to keep our young folks engaged and activated. Thank you.
Christian Erickson.
I think a lot of city departments have done a lot of terrific work engaging our youth, and I think there's plenty of room for that to expand and grow. The first thing that comes to mind is the recent project to appoint youth and young people to city commissions as sort of emerging leaders in our community. The Park and Rec's intervention team is doing fantastic work. And then there's the normal sort of Park and Rec activities like athletics. I think there's plenty for our young people to do. The police department, between explorers and the fishing with kids, and I really feel great about the kind of resources that are available to our kids. But like Hollis said earlier, it's not always universally available everywhere in the city for everyone. And I look forward to seeing that improved going forward.
Thank you. Excuse me, Andrew.
I think the city of Brooklyn Park, as far as things that they've done well, the question was, what have we done well? We do have lots of programs. We have, programs at the community center. We have programs. Youth Link is an excellent program where they have reached out to the youth in our community. But there's always room for improvement and to engage all of our youth, especially youth from communities of color and immigrant communities, how are we providing transportation for them to get to the different community centers? We only have, a couple of community centers. There's no community center in the East District. So there's room for improvement. There's room for us to get our children or our youth more engaged in the environment. Brooklyn Park has a beautiful environmental community, and I think we need to do a better job of getting them engaged.
Thank you. Mr. Sheet?
What the city has done well is one of it is the improvement to community center. And there is a plan that's going out to develop the community center, and it requires improvement, and hopefully that incorporates a lot of amenities to have for all ages and groups. And the other is youth leadership in commissions. That's the new initiatives, and that is really highly encourageable. And for youth to be involved in city commissions and what city government does work. And the park and rec bonding that passed a couple of years back, and the improvement that's coming in that area is so phenomenal. And always there is a room for improvement, and I see the city has a lot of opportunities in terms of development, in terms of embracing diversity, either through workforce or through housing policies. That is to be continue to be improved.
Thank you. Hollis?
So I have been impressed with some of the, uptick in maybe kind of these one-off programs that you see with Zanewood. I think for me, it's a focus less on what's happened in the past and more on where we're moving going forward. And so, I sat on the Budget Advisory Commission for 2 terms, and you can see a gap between the funding that's given to the Community Activity Center and then what you see with Zanewood. And the reality is that when you have hotspots where some youth are struggling with some very serious issues and you don't have the programming there, that's when you start to run into some of these longer term issues. So when we talk about, connecting youth, not just through Youth Link and other things, but to jobs and apprenticeships, when you talk about more sports programming, when you look at the investment in Zanewood versus other places, there's an opportunity for improvement. The work that's happened has happened, but I do think given the size of the issue we're dealing with, where neighbors are talking about gunshots going off in their backyards, right? I think you have to kind of be strategic in terms of where you invest when you're seeing specific issues. And I think we can do a much better job in the Zanewood core.
Thank you. Thank you. Maria?
I think recently I've seen a lot of improvement in our city, and some like more park for the family and kids, outdoor activity. Some of the things I love the most are the library. We have a library in Brooklyn Park, the very big one, and all kind of service there. Family go there, keep the children play, family parents do the computer study, or kids have the play area, and so I think those are the things that we want to see more and more, and I enjoy that a lot because I be there like every day.
Thank you. Excuse me. We'll move on to the next question. Do you think ranked choice voting is the most democratic means of seeking candidates, and if not, why? And we'll start that question with Maria.
Can you repeat the question?
Ranked choice voting, I'm talking to this. Ranked choice voting. Do you think ranked choice voting is the most democratic means of selecting candidates? And if not, why not?
I am kind of like in the between. I want to see how benefits it before I make, because before I pick it. I want to see the benefit, but it's kind of like just new come out, I have not seen any benefit or disbenefit to compare with yes or no. And I want to hear from other public opinion too.
Winfred Rush, I can't talk. Winfred Russell, that isn't that hard.
Yeah, maybe you should, just a Russell.
Okay. Putting it together, I'm having a hard time.
You have to get with the rest of the folks who will just say Russell for mayor, so it's much easier, just say Russell. Ranked choice voting, as the saying go, I mean, I'm one of these progressive folks and folks who like to think outside the box. But when it comes to, but I also believe that if it's not broken, don't try to fix it. So I think the current system that we have is working well for Brooklyn Park, and I will definitely hesitate to try to bring in another system that at least we've not tested or seen the benefits that it is going to bring to our residents. But I'll be open to what residents have to say, and I'd like to get more information about ranked choice voting. But let's take it to the residents and let's hear what they say. If this is something that they embrace, if this is something that they would like us to move forward with. But at the moment, I would like to stay with what we have because I think it's working well for us. It has worked well for us, and it will work well for us. Thank you.
Okay, Christian Erickson, please.
I would say that ranked choice voting has the potential to be a more democratic means of selecting candidates because I think it eliminates some of our first past the post problems. But in many of the conversations I've been a part of involving ranked choice voting, people are very confused. And if people enter the ballot box confused, then it is definitely not the most democratic form of selecting our leaders. So I think there is, those who support ranked choice voting have a big education job ahead of them before I would be comfortable supporting that as a electoral process going forward.
Thank you. Ingrid?
I do support ranked choice voting. I do think it is a democratic process that helps people feel like they have a voice in the process. I do agree with Christian that there's a lot of education that needs to go along with it. But I think the election in Alaska was a great example of how ranked choice voting can get the whole community engaged and you can have a better outcome.
Thank you. Tashita?
I believe in continuous improvement in our ensuring openness to our democratic process. And ranked choice voting has a potential to lead us toward that open democratic process where everyone's voices get heard. As mostly, say from here, and I'd like to see more. And I'd like our residents to have a voice in it before we implement it, before as their, if I nominate, I'll choose them at their city council before supporting it. And I need to really be educated more about it and how it works, and also residents to know more. And I believe, though, there is high, from other cities, it has high potential toward moving us toward open, more inclusive democratic process.
Alice?
So, I think theoretically ranked choice has the ability to create much more of a consensus, right? So if you have candidates on the extreme, maybe that second vote can help bring people more to a place of consensus, which is something that's needed in politics. I think that the issue though is, and I think most folks have pointed it out, is that folks don't really know about it. They really don't know what it stands for. So buying into something that they don't understand for causes issues. And I think we need people to feel like when they go into that voter's booth, They understand all of the choices in front of them, and they know exactly what it means when they vote. So I think part of the issue is that ranked choice voting has a lot of work to do in terms of educating folks, because as candidates, we're not gonna necessarily take the time up here within 1 minute to educate everybody on the minutiae of ranked choice voting. So I think there's potential there, but I think it's incumbent upon those who are pushing for it or asking about it, right, to educate folks as to exactly what it is, the goods and the bad.
Thank you. Okay, we're ready for the next question. I'm watching the time, so we want to be sure and have enough time at the end for you to give your wrap up. This question is, how would you address crime in the community? And that one, we'll start with Hollis again.
So, I would start with, it'd be two things. You have to continue to fully fund the police. I mean, that's obvious. I think secondarily, you have to invest in youth programming heavily in areas where you don't necessarily have a lot to do. And then I guess there's a third aspect of that. You have to kind of have an understanding of the models that are going to work. So when I look at Huntington Place, I look at the village, folks are saying, we've got security. That security isn't necessarily sweeping the buildings, so we don't feel safe within our buildings, even though people feel safe up front when they enter the building. So I think you have to take some of these resources and say, how do we get folks what they're asking for, not just in Huntington Place, but throughout the city? So that's going to be fully funding the police. That's going to be a massive investment in youth with the resources that currently exist and some grant funding that's available. But it's also going to be saying, how can we take these models so that we can go to some of these hotspots, engage folks, get ahead of these issues, and ultimately push down crime, which is not something we've seen significantly happen in Brooklyn Park for quite some time.
Thank you. Maria?
To deal with the crime, I think the very important thing is to bridging the gap between communities, because people have the fears to the unknown, and that is where bully or all kind of bias come from. So make the unknown become known, like on the people, neighbors in the areas, no stranger anymore. Building the social community bonds or relationship, make all kind of family outdoor activity, park or potluck, youth program, and so we make the community not no more stranger.
Thank you. Winfred?
Thank you. I think one of the biggest advantages that I have is that I sit on this council. And so with that, I have the advantage of working directly with the police and seeing crime statistics and data come through. The problem we have, I think, our police budget is the highest within our system. No other department has more money than the police has. So we will continue to fund the police. So funds for the police, resources for the police is not a problem. We have a lot of youth programs. The problem I think that we need to address, and I've started having conversation prior to coming here, or just with the police chief and some state legislators, talking about how we can fundamentally address crime, and that is through the prosecution. When we arrest kids here, folks here, and send them to Hennepin County, they are they get out of jail with a slap on the wrist. That's where we need to start, and that conversation has started already.
Thank you very much. Christian?
I think as several others have already pointed out, the answer to this, I think, rests with investing in our youth. I heard one time somebody say that there's two frames of mind, that children who want to do well will do well, and the other frame of mind is children who can do well will do well. And I think it's hard for children to be able to do well if their housing isn't safe and clean, if their parents are experiencing food insecurity and employment insecurity, if their schools aren't a safe place for them to feel a part of a community, whether it's bullying or not seeing themselves fully in the curriculum. And the city can't do all of that. It takes partners with schools and up and down the system, but the answer to that problem rests with our youth.
Indra?
I just want to say I'm kind of disappointed in that answer of wanting to do more prosecution. We're not seeing a rise in crime because people aren't being prosecuted enough. We're seeing a rise in crime because these children are dealing with issues. There's a lot of mental health issues. We've just come out of a pandemic. And I think instead of just trying to put people in jail, we really need to try and understand what the problems are and how we can address those issues. We need to really stop thinking that everyone is bad and we have to start putting people in jail. We need to help them figure out what their problems are and help them get the resources that they need. When people, like you said, when people are feeling safe, when they have proper housing, when they know that they can eat, then they don't have time to get out here and commit crime. So I just hope that we, look at approaching crime from a little bit different perspective than what we have done in the past, because that's not the answer.
Thank you. Tashida?
When it comes to crime, definitely the status quo hasn't worked. The status quo of arrest everyone, take it to the jail hasn't worked. And also, political correctness of, particularly crime in the city of Brooklyn Park has impacted us all. I call it crime against all of us, because the perception out there, the image, how the city is portrayed out there in terms of new investment, in terms of new family resettling here, is so damaging that we need to come up with a new paradigm of addressing crime that's happening in the city. That requires all of us. That requires supporting the law enforcement and the police. Yes, we need to provide, but we need to keep them accountable in terms of their inclusiveness, their diversity, the staff they have, how will they process. We need to include all that. And we need to develop youth programming and mental health specialists that works and what's happening in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're ready for the next question, and this will be, I think, the last question, because we're getting close to 7:30, and then we'll go into your wrap-up. What do you think the city should do to move to be a more green city? And we start with Tashida.
Thank you. We need to invest in new technologies, whether it is the electronic vehicles or the manufacturing sectors that we have in the city. We need to provide energy efficient technology that is out there, and we need to research and provide in our water treatment facilities, whether it is utilities or the fleets that we have for snow removals or for transportation. We need to start to think how we can make it energy efficient and move it toward green technology or EV electronic vehicles. And if we do that, we will improve the city green. And the same thing in the city operations, we need to move toward using energy efficient technologies that's out there, instead of printing a lot of materials. If we do that, we will be really green throughout the city.
Thank you. Klaus?
So, I would take a similar approach, but I would also say that one of the things that makes Brooklyn Park special is our parks. And I think folks are worried about their safety in the parks for one, but I also think they're worried about kind of the cleanliness in the parks and where that's going to go. So I do think that, you got to do some of the basic blocking and tackling and say, how do we take care of the parks where our kids go and play and where we have different events. I think the second thing is that, so along that Mississippi corridor where you have the Mississippi, I think making sure that you are working with folks at the state level, DNR, to make sure that that is protected. I think the more we can let folks know some of these resources we have in Brooklyn Park, because it's not always about doing the action. I think the more we can let people know about the resources we have and the more other people's dollars we can bring, we can invest into making Brooklyn Park a much safer place. But it's not a priority compared to some of our other issues being in public safety right now.
Thank you. Christian?
I think we've already seen the city make some investments in things like shifting towards some locally produced clean energy, like the solar panels right out back. And I think that we can continue to explore some of those. I definitely agree with Hollis on our parks. I think that's how many people first fall in love with the idea of being green, is having access to it themselves. And I think community efforts around cleaning up our parks and investing in them as a community, keeping them clean and attractive. And then I think investing in some of the holes in real basic improvements like public transit, making sure that our public transit's actually going where people need to go, and that is available, including the Blue Line eventually coming. Thanks.
Thank you. Maria?
To support the greener environment, I think we need to educate the public awareness about global warming, recycle things, because when I talk to some resident, people are kind of upset about some neighbors. They just move in the areas and we have the tree make the areas good for many years, and now suddenly neighbors are nice, but we don't know why they suddenly cut up on the tree with no reason. So we need to educate people how environment or global warming benefit and disbenefit.
Thank you. Going into our closing statements, we'll do this in alphabetical order, and we'll start with, did I leave you out? Yes, I did. I marked you out before you spoke. All right.
And you left me out too as well. So.
I did.
Yes.
Yeah, I did right.
I do this. Okay,
Should I go?
we'll let Indra go,
Okay.
and then we'll do,
Russell.
Russell for mayor.
Okay, I think there's a couple of ways of approaching it. One, we need to protect the green spaces that we have. We've made some great investments in the parks that we do have as far as making them more usable. Adding the canoe lockers or kayak lockers, continuing to do things like that to make our green spaces more usable and more friendly. Two, we need to be providing more resources and incentives to get our residents to become more green. How can we bring the incentives of, having electric cars or putting in solar panels? All of those things are things that we can do from a city level to encourage our residents to become more green. The other thing is to, okay. The other thing is to, when we have projects that are infrastructure projects that are being presented to the council, to make sure that they are looking at green alternatives as well. Okay.
Thank you. Winfred.
So I think that the record will show that I'm one of the most environmentally conscious city council member here in the city of Brooklyn Park. A lot of the environmental policies here, I push, I advocate for them because I am a believer and someone who embraces the park system. So you see a lot of the improvements, the trails that we're putting through. Those are things that I have supported and I will continue to support. One of the things that I'd like many of us up here to know is that I know Christian referenced it. Brooklyn Park has the largest solar farm in the state of Minnesota. So half of our energy bill here is using the solar. So we are already on that trajectory, and as your mayor, I will continue that and improving our parks. I supported the park referendum.
Thank
So
you.
we'll continue to do that as your mayor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, now, it's time, I hope, to go to your closing statements. You'll have 2 minutes, and we'll go in reverse alphabetical order, as I said a minute ago, and we start with Indra.
So again, I just want to remind everyone, my name is Indra Alexander, and I'm running for the Brooklyn Park City Council seat in the East District. I'm looking to bring proactive leadership to unite and uplift our city. So I just want to invite you to visit my website at indradalexander.com to learn more about me and my campaign and my positions. And I also want to encourage you to come out and explore more of the East District. So we are hosting a rally and a bike ride along the East District this Saturday, starting at Dos Hermanos at 4 p.m. Thank you.
Again, thank you all for being here tonight, and to the League of Women Voters for organizing. I hope as you look at my experiences and my work here in Brooklyn Park, you'll see a track record of care and diligence and a real love for this community. I hope you'll experience my willingness to listen to you, whether we agree or not, to learn from you, to hold you in high regard. And I hope you'll see how I've worked and will continue to work to understand clearly all of the issues that come before me before I'm willing to speak on them or make decisions on them. If you have any questions or concerns, I really, truly welcome you to reach out and ask by email or Facebook message. You can use my website, ericksonforbrooklynpark.com, to learn more about me, or there's a lot of writings and posts from the past several years on my Facebook account for my campaign. Just thank you so much for being here. Ask for your vote on November 8th or in early voting, which starts on Friday, probably right here in the council chambers.
Winfred?
Thank you. I think it is clear that there is a defined contrast between Russell for mayor and my opponent. My experience in this community, working for a very long time, resident for 20 years, I've done the work, I have the experience, I will be mayor for all of Brooklyn Park, and not one particular group or one particular neighborhood. I come with many years of experience in this community and for doing the work. So on November 8th, vote Russell for mayor. I think that we all can see or have seen that experience matters. And we see what is happening to our neighbors next door. When you have someone who doesn't have that experience in this position and in the track record, build the relationship that we've built over the years, what we see happening next door, I'm afraid it may happen to us here in Brooklyn Park. So experience does matter, and Russell is the most experienced person by far in running, in how the city operates, and I will be here serving you and representing the aspirations of the voters, of the residents of Brooklyn Park, and not one particular entity or one particular group. So I'd just like to invite you to my kickoff event on Thursday at Leopold's. It's a spot there in East District. So Kristen and Ingrid, you all are invited to Leopold's on Thursday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. We will have a neo-soul jazz musician performing. So we're trying to ensure that we can bring the business to your district. So I hope you show up. So vote Russell for mayor. Thank you.
Maria?
Hi again. Because I have a passion to serve the people with my education knowledge, life experience. I want to give back to the community from the scholarship I got at the North Hennepin Community College. That's why I step up. I have a life experience that work for others, and I live among the Hmong people in the community, and I have a good insight of what and how it could be done to make Brooklyn Park a better place for all residents. So please vote me if you like what I've been doing, and even if I don't win the election, the thing I've been helping people like landlord tenant abuse, homeowner insurance scam, or family children have a problem in school, because I have 18 years working in education, legal, and medical system. I've been helping people. I continue to do what I love to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alice Winston?
So,
You skipped
Actually, it should be
Wakashima.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
That's my mistake. Again.
So I want to say thank you to the League of Women Voters and the audience for hearing us out. I actually want to say thank you to the other folks up here for coming to this debate, but I also want to say thank you to Winford, even though he's my opponent. I do appreciate that he shows up to these debates, because not everyone shows up to the debates. And I know that we have a difference in terms of whether we should look backwards versus looking forwards, whether we believe we can stop crime upstream before it gets to prosecutors, or we need to have someone else take care of it for us downstream. Nevertheless, I want to say thank you, for coming out and debating, because we've debated many times. The reality is we are facing huge challenges: economic stress, rising crimes, and balancing strategic development with our beautiful parks and natural resources. It's clear that the status quo just isn't working for us, and we need fresh ideas and leaders willing to work in tandem with our community, while ensuring we have a public safety plan and youth development program that is effective and inclusive of all of our neighborhoods, so for everybody. We know that we will all be safer when we are all safe, but for quite some time, we've also dealt with a hard water problem in Brooklyn Park, and we didn't really get to talk about that, but we do need to ensure that we're addressing that, because that costs folks in apartments, both in mold and safety issues, but it also costs folks in homes hundreds of dollars every year. So we have to have leadership and get ahead of that issue. And lastly, we need to ensure that we're addressing the rise in property taxes. It is pricing some of our young families out and some of our senior families out. And that comes with development that doesn't necessarily displace, but that takes folks into account, that brings the right businesses here. But key to all of that is changing this perception around public safety in Brooklyn Park. If we can do that, we can get the development that we need, and we can address many of these other problems in a prosperous way.
I would like to thank the League of Women and also thank all who showed up for this. And I think informed decision-making is a benchmark of democracy. And I appreciate people who showed up tonight to hear from all of us our vision for the city of Brooklyn Park, because we all belong. And in today's environment, we're living in a highly polarized society because of really division in the areas of economy, age, and religion, political lines of division that we see. However, we are one Brooklyn Park, and we belong here. And everything that happens here affects all of us. That's why I prioritize public safety. That's why I prioritize water quality in the city of Brooklyn Park. And I would like to include that in the capital improvement plan in the 2021 to 2025. We need to include that to improve. And I hope our collective engagement is the benchmark of moving Brooklyn Park forward for all. And I ask you vote starting Friday. If you are voting, no excuse absentee voting. I would like to vote Tashiri Wako for Brooklyn Park Central District, and Tashiri Wako with W-A-K-O last name. I hope you make that decision. And I believe I'll be your next city council for the Central District, because I have experience, I have the vision. I have been 5 years in the Budget Advisory Commission, where all the departments come in front of me with their presentations, and I have seen it all. And I believe I'll bring my experience of working with public and private as the Chief Financial Officer with the City of St. Paul and City of Minneapolis, and executed a lot of developments in South Minneapolis. If you see Midtown Global Market that I have done, I'll bring those experiences to you. So starting Friday till November 8th, vote Tashiri Wako for the Central District for Brooklyn Park City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to the candidates that came tonight. We also have 2 other candidates running. Nicole, oh, now I'm gonna have problems with that name. Konowski and Tanya West Hafner. We were sorry that they couldn't be with us tonight. Thank you also to the audience for coming, the audience that is at home watching. And do let your people know at home that couldn't make it tonight, that this is being broadcast again on CCX. So it has been recorded. Thank you to our timekeepers. Thank you to our question people. And check with Vote 411, which is .org. And at that location, you will find access to people who are running in a lot of different races. And you go in and put in your information of where you live, and then put the information in of the area that you're interested in, or who you want to know about. And that's another way to find out who's running and more information about them. Be sure to vote, and thank you for coming. Good night. So I appreciate it. Yeah.